What's up everyone, I'm Luke Milano, and today we are talking about sound and why you can't overlook this in your projects. And with that,
let's get rockin'!
believe it or not, your ears will notice imperfections in audio before your eyes will notice imperfections in video. It's crazy to think about because we all want to put such an emphasis on visuals, but it is true. If your shot is slightly underexposed, it won't be as noticeable as a really bad buzz in your audio mix. You don't even have to be looking at the screen to notice bad audio. I'm not gonna give you a bunch of reviews of expensive products because honestly, I'm using a pretty cheap Rode mic. True story, one time I needed some voiceover and my buddy went in his closet and recorded it on his iPhone, and it honestly didn't turn out that bad.
Lamar University made the trip to Northern Iowa for the first round of the FCS playoffs as 28-point underdogs. But underdogs isn't what they thought of themselves.
So I'm gonna break this video up into 4 parts, and then I'm gonna leave one pro tip for the end. Okay, so dialogue. And the first thing you need to ask yourself is, am I shooting indoors or outdoors? Because they make a big difference. If you're indoors, you want to make sure you turn off any air conditioning or anything that can make a constant buzzing noise. In fact, I actually have my refrigerator unplugged right now because I'm in my living room and it's close enough to my kitchen that you'd probably be able to hear it. Assuming you're in a controlled environment, you should not have a dead cat or this big foam thing on your microphone. These are here to help your microphone from peaking or distorting during really windy times or just super loud, sudden noises like that. But since you're in a controlled environment, you shouldn't need this as much. You're not gonna have any wind indoors or anything like that. So keep these things for when you're outdoors. Just don't scream super loud into the microphone and you should be fine. However, if you're shooting outdoors, you do need a dead cat, and if you don't put one on, you're going to eventually have to do something called ADR, which means audio dialogue replacement. It's essentially where you re-record audio and then dub it on top of the original video to replace audio that was poorly recorded because of wind or something like that. I had to do it in this clip right here, and it's a pain that's pretty easily avoided as long as you just put one of these bad boys on. If you're outdoors and you know you need to be using a dead cat, it really does help to test and make sure that it's working properly before you shoot, because you don't want all of the audio to come out bad just because you didn't take a few seconds to test it. You're probably wondering why mine looks so weird, and that's because I made it myself. With the particular model of Rode mic that I'm using, for some reason the dead cat that they sell doesn't wrap around the back where the battery portion is, but wind still affects that back portion really bad. So even if you're protecting the front, the wind can come in through the back and still cause wind distortion. I don't have anything on the back of my Rode right now, so I'm just gonna blow on the battery and show you how bad it can sound. Sounds pretty terrible, and it can ruin an entire take. So I bought some of this Fox Fur stuff. The Fox Faux? I don't know, I'll put the spelling on the screen, but I bought this stuff at Walmart. You can get it in the fabric section. And I just kind of made a part that can go onto the front of it right here. And then this part kind of wraps around the battery and sticks in like that, and it works. You just gotta get crafty with the scissors and stuff, but it's totally worth it to not have to worry as much about wind coming in and ruining that perfect shot. All right, now if you've done everything you can to make sure you get clean audio and you've still got some sort of a buzz in the background, then you're gonna need to do noise reduction. Noise reduction is able to identify the buzz or the hiss or whatever it is and remove just that part from your audio without taking out the vocals or anything like that. I'm not going to get into the exact process of how to do this, but you can do it through Adobe Audition. There are tons of great tutorials on YouTube. That's how I learned how to do it. I went on YouTube, typed in noise reduction. I do this for every piece of audio that's on this YouTube channel because right now I don't have that expensive of a microphone. Sometimes you just got to make it work. University YouTube, baby. Alright, next up is Foley, and Foley was actually a lot like audio dialogue replacement, except instead of replacing vocals, you're replacing other sounds with your own sound effects. Foley is generally really small details, but it's worth it to spend the time on them because they can really take your sound design to the next level. Take a look at this scene of this ball rolling down some stairs. Now the audio wasn't terrible, but it would be much better if the ball bouncing off of each individual stairs was a little bit more pronounced from the background noise. So I just scoured YouTube and found a sound effect of a ball bouncing on concrete. That was important. You don't want it bouncing on wood in a gym. And just took that and dubbed it and made it a little bit quieter each time as the ball got further away. Now you can hear the ball bouncing, but it doesn't sound right because there's no other natural sound from the environment mixed in with it. This is much better. That really helps pronounce the sound design because the details kind of draw you in a little bit more. What you want to do is find a way to mix your Foley in with the natural sounds of the scene so that everything sounds realistic. And remember, with Foley, it's all about subtlety, so you don't want the ball bouncing so loud that you can tell that it was added in there in post-production. Sometimes it's so subtle that people who don't have really nice headphones or they don't have their speakers very loud won't even notice it at all. But I think it's still probably worth it to do it because the people who pay attention to details will appreciate the effort and it'll just go a long way for your production. Alright, last, we've got the behemoth of all audio, and that is music. Honestly, the hardest thing with music doesn't really have to do with the technical ability. I mean, unless you're actually creating your own music, the hardest part is just finding something that's going to fit your project. Sometimes it's just really tough to find the right music for your project. You can just think about it for so long and it seems like nothing is really fitting. So what I do is I take preventative measures. So there are times when I'm working on something that might not go on the internet, so I don't have to worry about copyright. And in those instances, what I do is I keep a list on my iPhone. These are songs that at some point I've thought to myself, oh, that would work for this type of project, or this song would work for that other type of project. I just have a long list going so that when I'm about to start on something, I can just kind of look at my phone and pick through stuff that I've already kind of decided would be a good idea. For times that I'm working on a project where I need to use royalty-free music, I do something that's kind of similar. Anytime I'm browsing music on a royalty-free site, if I find something that sounds good, I will download it. Even if it's not going to work for the project that I'm currently working on, because it's just nice to have a bank of music. That way I've built up a list of tracks that I like, so if I'm about to start on a project, a lot of times I'll be like, wait, I think I downloaded something the other day that'll work for this. Honestly, searching for music in my mind is a huge pain, especially when you got to go through royalty-free music. So taking these preventative measures can really help. Sometimes I will sit there for hours looking for songs, but if I've got these lists I can just pull from, it just works a lot better. If you don't have anything on your song list that you've made, there's one more thing that I do sometimes. Don't overlook the idea of using sound effects instead of music. There seems to be this idea, especially on YouTube, that you have to have music in every single project, but it's really not the case. Sometimes just some nicely placed sound effects can do the trick. Now this can work especially well if the project isn't meant to be super long. I mean, a really long video with no music might get a little bit weird, but for a shorter video it can work pretty well. And if you're a fan of the NFL, you've probably noticed their Ready Set NFL commercials, and they've really been doing this a lot lately. You can just type in Ready Set NFL commercial and I think the first thing that comes up is like a Patriots one or something like that. Another thing I've been doing a lot lately is using sound effects right in the beginning of a project to set the tone and then kind of like seamlessly transitioning into a piece of music afterwards.
You have not heard the end of Artist Gilmore.
Jacksonville upsets the #1 team in the country, the Florida Gators.
Welcome to Jacksonville. Dare to be bold.
You're probably thinking to yourself, well, that didn't really solve anything because you still had to find music for the middle section, but trust me, it does really help. Sometimes the hardest part about finding music isn't because the music is bad, it's just that you're looking for something with an exact beginning, middle, and end, and trying to find something that lines up exactly with the pacing that you're looking for can be really difficult. But if you just find something a little more basic for the middle and then kind of set your own tone at the beginning and then cap it off with something at the end, it can be really effective and it allows you to control the flow of your video. And that's huge because pacing is really important. I mean, I could make an entire video just on pacing alone. I might do that at some point, who knows? Alright, I told you if you made it to the end, you'd get a bonus pro tip, so here we go. Silence is golden. One of the great things about sound is that you can use an absence of it to emphasize a point. Have you ever noticed that when you fall asleep with the TV on, when somebody turns that TV off, a lot of times you'll wake up? That's because the sudden absence of sound can emphasize a point just as well as a sudden excess of sound. So if you really want to emphasize a point where someone is talking and there's music underneath, You may want to cut the music and pause briefly just to get people's attention. And you don't have to do this with just speaking roles, and some cases are not as noticeable as others. Remember that video I played earlier with the alley-oop dunk? Notice the small space of silence between when the first player passes the ball and the second player dunks it. Alright, that's everything I got for you today. I hope this kind of helped you get on the right track. It sucks to see projects that are super good and intelligent, but the sound is just bad enough that it's kind of distracting. If you learned something, anything, please, please, please like the video, subscribe. I think there's a notification thing I'm supposed to ask you to click or something like that. Just do all the YouTube things I'm supposed to ask you to do so I can keep doing this as long as possible.